Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad that you joined me. This video is going to be just a little bit different. I decided to do a story time. Yeah, a story time. Because there's something that I really wanted to kind of get out there because I think it will be really helpful, not just for me, but for other people out there. So if you're ready, let's go. So it all started back in 1999. I was 2 to 3 weeks away from going away to college. I was going to Western Illinois University, and about 3 weeks before I left for school, I got a walnut size boil under my arm. Now before, I had gotten little bumps under my arm just from shaving and stuff like that, doing stuff that girls do, that we have to go through and do, but this one was a bit different. It was about the size of a walnut, and I remember during my trunk party, I couldn't even hardly move my arm. I had to hold my arm down because any movement really hurt. So someone gave me some cream to put on there. So I put it on there, and it drained, and the smell was, when I tell y'all, the smell was horrible and the pain was excruciating, but I got it all drained out. It was no problem. I went to the doctor, and they gave me an antibiotic called Caflex, something real simple. It was like a little red pill. I went away to school. Everything was fine. Had a good time, probably too much of a good time because I was only there for a year, but that's a whole nother story. So I was at school. Every now and again I had to go back to the doctor because the boil went away, but what happened, it was like a little pin-sized hole that was still there, that was still open every now and again and was still drained. So I kind of start going back to the doctor at school to get more antibiotics to just make sure that it closed up. So after that, everything cleared up. Everything was fine. My first year of college was over. It was so much stress, but I had gotten through it. So I came back home, and because of my grades, I wasn't able to go back to school. So I just stayed home, got a job, and start working. So about 2001, I was where I worked, they gave us a shuttle from the train to the job. So I would remember being on the shuttle and feeling this hard, painful cyst on my lower back, upper butt, however you want to look at it. And it was so painful. It was so painful, but what are you gonna do? Just kind of sit at home. So I went back and forth to work, and I remember being on that shuttle, and the feeling of that thing bursting was the worst feeling in the world. It's the most unimaginable feeling of, I don't even want to describe it, but the liquid and the pain that came from it, it got all over my clothes. I believe I had to go home early that day. I literally went to work and then turned around and went back home because it had messed up my clothes. And I'm thinking, what is going on? I thought I was done with this. I thought I was finished with this, but apparently not. So first, the first boil came, and it went away with no problem. And now I have this new boil. So I start going to the doctor to try to find out what exactly is going on. They would basically just ask me different questions like, is there anybody in your family who suffers with boils? And I asked my mom, and she said my aunt might have had a few, or my grandfather. So basically they just chalked it up to heredity and was like, well, it's just something that you're going to have to deal with. You need to lose a bit of weight, and it'll stop coming. And at the time, I wasn't caring about no weight. I wasn't losing no weight, and I felt like they were very rude for even telling me that I needed to lose weight. So I kept going on. They gave me more antibiotics, the same antibiotics I had before. But what I think happened is that I took those antibiotics for so long that they weren't active anymore. My immune system almost got used to them, so it wasn't helpful at all. So the drainage kept going to the point where I had to put gauze on it just to make sure that it didn't mess up my clothes. It was so embarrassing because sometimes it would seep through, and then you would have this big mark on the back of your clothes, and nobody knows what's going on with you in your body. Nobody knows this. So it just became just so embarrassing. So I really didn't talk about it much or anything like that. So I kept going back and forth to the doctor, and then what started happening is the boils under my arm start coming back. But the problem is the boils under my arm would come back and then wouldn't go away. So it would always be there, or it would open up and it would just open and stay draining. So now I have a boil on my lower back. Now I have a boil under both of my arms, and I'm not understanding what's going on. We're always taught, if you're sick, go to the doctor. You know, I'm a Christian, so I'm a believer, and definitely a sure enough believer in healing. So along with me praying, I'm going to the doctor and doing all this, and nothing is happening. Nothing is working. They can't tell me why this is happening to me. The only thing that they say is basically you're too fat and blame your ancestors. Period. So, but that doesn't help me right now. And even at the time, I wasn't really overweight. Of course, I probably could have lost a few pounds, but it wasn't extreme. So I just couldn't understand what was going on. So when I went to another doctor, he basically told me that because of the coiliness of the hair under my arm, because as you can see, I'm a black girl, magic and all, because of the coiliness of my hair, and using antiperspirant deodorant, that it was causing the hair to sit under the skin and then irritate the sweat glands. So the only thing that they can do for me, because it had already been agitated and because it became such a big issue for me, the only thing they can do is remove the gland that was under my arm. So that's what they told me they were going to do. And I really honestly don't remember this first surgery that I had. Only thing that I do remember, that it was very quick, not really painful at all. And I think that it did much. I don't even remember what the results looked like afterwards, but what I do know is it did not help. And actually, I think that in doing that, it agitated it more, because what began to happen after that is it begins to spread everywhere. So not only did I get them under my arms, and I had the one still on my lower back, but the one on my lower back started to kind of create a form of a octopus, not as many legs, but we'll call it squid. So it just started kind of growing these different tracks, so that I would end up getting little pin-sized openings on my lower back or the top of my butt, and then those would drain. So I had to kind of spread out where the gauze would sit so that it wouldn't mess up my clothes. And then not only did I get it there, but right at your panty line, I would get them there too. And if you have ever had anything in that area, that hurts. So I'm dealing with that. I'm dealing with my back. I'm dealing with my arms. And I'm just like, okay, I don't even want to see another doctor, because every time I go to a doctor, y'all tell me I'm fat. Y'all tell me it's because my hair is coily. Y'all tell me I'm going to have it forever. And then when I go in to try to fix it, it makes it worse. So after that, I was done. I was just basically chalked it up to me having to deal with this for the rest of my life. I was learning how to wear certain clothes so that it wouldn't be irritated. I was learning how to cover up certain things so that you wouldn't be able to see. And then what started happening is I started getting them in my chest, and I'm just like, okay, really, on, under, everywhere. And listen, it is not my fault that I am blessed. Okay, it is not my fault, but it just seems like they would just grow everywhere, almost taking over my body. And no doctor could ever tell me exactly what was going on, what was wrong. I told one doctor, I said, if I can't eat sugar anymore, then I'll be sad, but I won't eat sugar. If it's salt, it's salt. If it's something that I'm eating, tell me. And every doctor would just say, well, it's really nothing that you're doing. It's just something that is in your DNA. And I'm afraid to say you're just going to have to kind of deal with this for the rest of your life unless you want to have surgery. Do you know how many surgeries someone would have to fix all the issues? So you can see how one could get depressed, one could get irritated, you become secluded, even though I'm not really that kind of person, but it really kind of hinders you from kind of being as outgoing as you want to be, doing things that you want to do because you're afraid that it may irritate it, or it may, somebody might see it, and it's not attractive because it's not attractive to me. So interrupting dating life, you don't want to involve anybody into any of this because it's disgusting to you. So if it's disgusting to you and it's on your body, obviously it's going to be disgusting to somebody else. So basically what it did was just set up kind of a separation. I kind of put people at bay because, I don't even feel like explaining it because I can't even explain it. So after a while, what happened was I saw another doctor because I just got tired. So I finally saw another doctor, and they said, well, and I told them everything that I had been told over the years. And he said, well, we can do another surgery under the arm that is the worst. But what's going to happen is what we have to do is not only remove the glands, the sweat glands under your arm, but we have to remove the tract where the glands grow. And when he told me that, I was like desperate. So I was like, okay, I can't sweat no more. That's fine. Whatever. So I went in for surgery. It was a outpatient surgery. My aunt took me in, and I feel like I was there all day, and I was so scared, so nervous that I don't even remember the first surgery. So I was in there and they did the surgery, and I remember waking up and feeling fine. I felt great. I didn't feel any pain. I know that I had a gauze here, and then they had to, I guess the one on my chest had started to drain. And so they did something to that one, and I left and I went home and I was fine. I actually wanted to go out because I was feeling so great, but I was just drugged up. So I went home, and I remember my family being at the house, and we're just sitting and we're just talking, having conversation. So I got kind of sleepy and I went to bed that night, and I remember waking up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, and when I turned on the light in the bathroom, my whole half of my shirt was covered in blood. I swear I thought somebody came in and murdered me. Like, I'm walking around and I'm dead, because there's no way that there's this much blood and I'm walking around, so I gotta be dead. So I tell my mom, I'm like, oh my God, and I go in my room and there's blood all over my bed, and I don't know what happened with the gauze and from the surgery, and maybe I slept wrong, but I was just bleeding out. So we ended up having to go back to the hospital, and they had to change the gauze. And when I tell you that this was the worst feeling in the world, that they're touching on flesh. It's one of those things that just even thinking about it makes my skin crawl. So they changed the gauze. I went home. They gave me some pain meds, and I am in such pain. And the very first time that I had to change this wound, so they basically did what they said they were going to do. They removed the gland and the tracts where the glands grow, but they couldn't just close the wound up. They had to let it heal from the inside out. So under my arm, I had what my mother called a shark bite. She said it looks like a shark bit out of my arm. It was open from here to here, here to back there. All of this was just open flesh, and I had to clean that twice a day. I had to put new ointment on it twice a day. And when I tell you that this pain was worse than any pain I have ever experienced in my life, it had me questioning everything, every part of my existence. Like, why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to deal with this for something that I don't even know what this is? And that surgery took a year, almost a year to the day, for it to completely heal, to the point where they almost were going to do a skin graft because it just wouldn't heal. But it finally healed, and I was good, or I thought I was good. So that one was healed, but the other areas were just like basically going crazy. I almost feel like they were upset that I stopped it from doing it here, so we're gonna go crazy every place else. But this became my new normal. I learned how to deal with it. I learned how to cope with it. I wasn't going to allow it to stop me from living. However, it did hinder me from living as big of a life I feel like that I could have. But then, after I thought that was my normal, my face started breaking out. Child, not the face. And at the time, I didn't have insurance. So I had to go and find a dermatologist. I had to pay out of pocket. I went to a dermatologist. And at this point, I was so tired of doctors. I was so tired of them not knowing. I just got tired of nobody knows anything. So I'm like, I'm not going back to any more doctors. And the last doctor I went to tried to kill me, as far as I'm concerned. So I went to this dermatologist that my boss told me about. And I was telling her about my symptoms, almost on the verge of tears. I was telling her about everything I went through. I was telling her about my boils and my surgeries. And I was just waiting for her to say what all the other doctors said. And this is the very first time that anybody has ever said, "Oh, I know what that is." When I looked at her, I'm like, okay, so what is it? And she said, "Oh, that's HS." HS, I know what MS is, but HS, what is this? So HS is Hidradenitis Suppurativa. I think I'm pronouncing that right because I always just say HS. Hidradenitis Suppurativa. So let me read to you what HS actually is. HS is a chronic or long-lasting inflammatory skin condition that may be caused by malfunctions in the body's immune system. The body's immune system produces different types of proteins to help regulate and protect itself. But with HS, an imbalance in the immune system causes the body to produce too many inflammatory proteins. And this is what I have. So it took me, I would say almost 10 years to find out, probably more than 10 years of dealing with this, to find out that I have HS. She puts me on another kind of antibiotic. Now this antibiotic starts working a bit for my face, but it does nothing for my body. I still have drainage, and then what started to happen is my body just, rather than having the boils open up from that, come out on the outside, they would develop on the inside, and then one little hole would open up and it would just drain. It would, like I said, it's the most embarrassing and excruciating pain that one that I've ever felt in my life, outside of the surgery, that I've ever felt in my life. But so after my skin started clearing up, I couldn't afford the dermatologist anymore. So after a while, I was doing good, and then it started happening again. Face started breaking out again, but it was worse than ever. Worse than ever. I mean, one morning I would wake up and it would be one pimple, and then later on the evening it would be 3, and then I'll wake up in the next morning and it will be like 5, and I'm like, what is going on? So in the process, I went to see an allergist because I said that there has to be some other reason for the breakout, some other reason for my immune system going haywire. So I went to the allergist and basically found out that I'm allergic to everything. Everything. I'm allergic to wheat. So bye-bye bread. I'm allergic to corn. So bye-bye tacos. I'm allergic to sunflower. I'm allergic to apples. Who is allergic to apples? I'm allergic to bananas and blueberries and cantaloupe. Really? So after finding out I was allergic to all of these things, I just decided to cut all of it out. So my new doctor said that there is this new medication that I want you to try, and it really has helped other patients with HS. So I said, okay, I'll try it. And she said it was Humira. Now at the time, I remember hearing it like on television, but you know, it wasn't something that I had paid much attention to because, as you know, TV has all the commercials of all the medications in all of the world. So I really didn't pay any attention to it, but she was like, it's very expensive, and a lot of insurance companies don't want to pay for it. They try to figure out ways not to pay for it. But I'm just like, but a lot of these medicines have side effects. And I'm like, I'm not trying to end up suicidal just to get rid of some cysts and some boys that I've been living with for forever. Like, I'm not suicidal now. So I just turned it over to God, and I was like, Lord, if this is something that you want me to have, this is something that will help me, you make a way for me to have it. I'm not going to fuss. I'm not going to fight. If it's something I'm supposed to have, you'll make a way for it. I did the first round of medication, and it was just basically a waiting game. After that, I had to take one every week, and I just started taking it, and not only did my face start clearing up, but the boils on my body start clearing up. And mind you, which I forgot to say, is after a while, the boils under my one arm that the surgery did not fix, it stopped being a boil and just became an open wound about this size under my arm, just flesh, open and draining, and there was nothing that I can do. Only thing that could happen is another surgery. And when I start taking that medicine, the open space start shrinking and shrinking and shrinking, and right now it's about that much that's open right now. And I'm just like, oh my God, it's working. So with the medication that I was prescribed, along with changing my diet, the HS has started to kind of shrink. But I think it's something that is, all of those things need to work together so that I become free from any inflammation. Now, so yeah, I have HS, and the reason why I'm making this video is because I don't want anyone out there to feel alone. I'm so thankful for YouTube. I'm so thankful for all of the people who did make videos, who did put themselves out there to speak their truth, because it's not easy. It's really not. So we as a community can just help each other out, help encourage one another. Thanks guys for listening, and until next time, bye.